Pardon me, legendary director Definitive Cut hits theaters, and LA Film Festival puts African cinema front and center. And we also be celebrating the African songs that are making waves globally in TV and film. We are connecting the dots between our television, cultural spotlight, and also musical crossovers in today's film news. Welcome to the Film Mandate. I'm Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. And thanks for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. Apologies for the little hiccup at the very beginning. And so we'll be delving into today's exciting stories. First story being that of Quentin Tarantino's film Kill Bill finally getting the spotlight that he so wanted it to receive. And then we'll be moving from that story to the DaVinci International Film Festival, putting African cinema front and center, being the main highlight of their events this year in LA. And also, we will be talking about the top 10 songs compiled by Pulse Ghana, a website, a news portal in Ghana, about the top 10 African songs that have been used in international films and television today. So those are the stories that we'll be covering for this very episode. So delving into the very first story, for all those who are diehard cinephiles, the name Quentin Tarantino has definitely resonated with you. Definitely, even if you've not heard anything about him at all, you may know some of his films, from Kill Bill to Inglorious Bastards to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that starred Brad Pitt, winning him his Best Supporting Actor award, and also Leonardo DiCaprio. Definitely, I'm sure you've seen any number of these films, and I know you've heard of Leonardo DiCaprio. But one exciting thing for all directors is the fact that when they have the leverage to want to put a film out, they will definitely put out what they feel is the best format or length, or including everything that they have in mind on screen, and that is the director's cut. And fortunately for Quentin Tarantino, after about 22 years since Kill Bill hit the cinemas, finally Kill Bill is receiving the treatment that it deserves. The two film which he originally wrote as one is finally going to be put together into a complete film saga that he originally intended and had in mind, and is titled Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. And for those who watch Kill Bill, it does stars a number of big names, from Uma Thurman to so I mean, I had Bill. It had a number of actors. I mean, I wish I could mention them all, and it even featured in a small section the legendary actor Samuel L. Jackson. But all this is how he intended to put it out, and finally, he's getting to do so come December 2025. And um, Quentin Tarantino has always stressed that he wrote the Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 together. It was originally intended to be put out that way until when he was done, he realized that it has to be split into two to help with the cinema going experience. And for this reason, he finally has the opportunity to put it out in the very format and length that he originally intended it to be. So let's take a quick read at an article as to what he said concerning this particular event experience that people will be enjoying, particularly in the United States. So Quentin Tarantino to release Kill Bill movies as intended with epic runtime. It's the best way to see the film, director tells fans. And he says that Quentin Tarantino fan excitement is in overdrive with the news that his two Kill Bill films have been merged together and will be released as one giant film. The presentation titled Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair will essentially be a new Tarantino cinematic experience thanks to the inclusion of an exclusive animated a sequence running for almost 8 minutes. It will also remove Volume 1's cliffhanger ending featuring assassins Bill David Carradine and Sophie Fatale, Julie Dreyfus, as well as the introduction to Volume 2, in which Uma Thurman's protagonist recaps events of the previous film. The running time is 4 hours and 7 minutes. So that is the exciting information news going about this day concerning this particular release that he would be putting out. So going into the very story, we realize that for all those who have watched Quentin Tarantino's films, you know he has a very specific vision for every one of his films, from the dialogue and the blocking of the scenes and the framing of the images are all very specific. And not only does he do this, but with regards to how the format he wants the films to be experienced in together with the length, he indeed wants to be the one to have the final say with regards to this. And finally, it looks like his dream is going to be realized with how he intended Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2 ought to be experienced. And it is with regards to it being one film as he originally wrote it as. And finally, he's receiving that treatment, and he has titled this, as I said, he has already titled this The Whole Bloody Affair. That is Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. And what is exciting about this is the additional 8 minutes extensive animation that was used, just a small portion was used in the films. And finally, we will get to see the extent of this particular 8 minute animation in the entire film. The question would be, would we experience it any differently than we've already seen in the separate films of Volume 1 and Volume 2? And that's the question, perhaps, that is on a lot of people's minds with regards to his film. So this is indeed, I'm sure, would have just a limited runtime in the cinemas, but the good thing is that finally, at least we will get to see it the best way possible as Quentin Tarantino originally intended it to be. And as we all know, he is indeed a cinema buff, or in terms of the theater experience, his intention is that all films ought to be properly seen in the 70 millimeter and a 35 millimeter projected, film stock. And that is what he is bent on getting it done. So that is what he has made aware that all this particular film started from December 5th will be the experience in the format he claims to be, the perfect way in viewing, having that theater cinematic experience. And that is what he will be doing. Bear in mind, when he shot the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, starring Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Pacino, Margot Robbie, and the whole likes. Prior to screening that film, he went about fixing a number of selected theaters with a number of projectors that can project the 70 millimeter and 35 millimeter film. So indeed, he is passionate about how films are watched in the cinemas. And finally, this would be what he would want people to experience, and not just in the full length, but in terms of the film formats being 35 millimeter and 70 millimeter formats. So that is going to be quite an interesting aspect. And in a way, in as much as he makes films in this new Hollywood, he still has the spirit of the old Hollywood filmmakers, and this particular film, which would have a runtime of over 4 hours, would have an intermission between, the films. So the entire film will be 4 hours, 7 minutes. and he's going to place an intermission between, somewhere in the film, just as the old Hollywood theater going experience does, display their film like. And so this is how, I'm sure Quentin Tarantino is so excited, particularly about this film. It's unfortunate that the rumors about him developing a Kill Bill 3 actually wasn't actually true. However, as we all are expecting of him now, he has said that he will honor his his statement of just doing 10 films, and after the 10 films he would retire from the director's chair and maybe pursue other passions of his, whether being a novel or maybe uh, just keep on writing, story ideas that hopefully he would pass on to other directors to, helm, like the Cliff Booth spin-off of the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is being directed by uh, pardon me, I'm just blanking out on the director's name. But it is exciting to see that finally, Quentin Tarantino's film is going to be realized the way he intended it to be. Most often than not, when directors start out in whatever film industry they find themselves in, particularly when they do not control the funding as to how the film will be produced in monetarily, they always don't have the full privileges of being able to determine how certain aspects of their film would go, particularly, they're having total creative control. So usually along the line, when they, attain such, commanding clout or, you know, such authority along the line, they are able to indeed release the films in whichever format or in whichever way they intend it to be. Most often, it doesn't even change after years after when it has been dusted and done. But a lot of powerful film directors like Quentin Tarantino and just a few like James Cameron are able to have much say as to how their films ought to be aired in the cinemas, even how the trailers are edited, and a whole lot. And fortunately, we are excited that Quentin Tarantino, who is himself an auteur-driven director, has that authority to be able to bring us the films that so much entertains us. And that is what I'm so excited about, to see Kill Bill in its full format or full glory, the way he intended it to be seen, is quite an exciting thing for me. Hopefully, when this film is shown and the response is massive, not necessarily in terms of box office receipt, because it's already been through that theatrical window about 22 years ago, but hopefully when he sees how people are excited about his films, maybe he would rescind his decision of retiring after the 10th film, because I feel like there's so much in him, and I think he has so much to offer us, to offer the world. So it will be quite exciting to see what he has in store for his 10th film. Quite recently, he did say that he has scrapped the idea of doing the film critic, of which he would have been his 10th film. For reasons that he explained, is that it's not challenging, and he feels like it would be like doing the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood all over again, since majority of the scenes would be shot around the same place that he shot the Cliff Booth events, that Once Upon a Time Hollywood film. So it'll be quite interesting to see what he will do next. But I'm excited that since he's not made any announcement as to what film will follow up, at least we would comfort ourselves with what this particular one, the Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair. So let me know what you think with regards to this particular story. Do you think that in releasing this film together as one, instead of the way we previously saw it in the cinemas or on digital, would it influence or change your experience of the film? Or you think perhaps this would make it better, since that was his original vision? Whatever your thoughts may be on this particular development, kindly leave your comments in the comment section below. So that is quite an exciting news. So moving on from Quentin Tarantino's film In the Way Ought to Be Seen, now we move to one exciting news for Africa as a whole. Anytime there is a story about Africa, it gets me excited because I feel like for quite a long while we have been trying to, have our voice heard. Unfortunately, in certain circles, particularly film festivals, a number of our films are able to break through. And it was just yesterday when I was reading, delving into an article about how a lot of film festivals doesn't have, I mean, don't do not have a lot of African films being represented. Finally, we get to hear good news where a film festival in Los Angeles, that is the DaVinci Film Festival, is putting African cinema front and center in this year's particular event, which will start from October 10th to October 12th. And that would be the way to initiate or finally, launch what would be Film Africa in Nairobi, Kenya, beginning from next year. So it will be a film festival for Africans, but hosted or organized in Kenya every year. And that is quite an exciting news for those of us who are in Africa and who are excited to hear this news. So let's read a brief article published in the Real 360 that captures this information. So it says that Film Africa headlines DaVinci International Film Festival. Building on the success of international showcases like Film BC and Film Asia, the DaVinci International Film Festival is introducing Film Africa. This centerpiece program will lead opening nights at AMC Theatres, The Grove. Beyond the expanded spotlight moves well beyond a 2-hour sampler and signals DEF's next chapter, laying the groundwork for a new festival location in Nairobi next year. DEF founder Chadwick Peltier recently returned from Africa after finalizing the partnership. As part of the celebration, DEF will screen Nawi, Kenya's official Oscar submission for Best International Feature Film. The evening will also include the presentation of an honorary Leo Award to be announced, along with additional opening night programming. Film Africa marks an exciting new chapter for DEF, spotlighting African cinema on opening night in Los Angeles while paving the way for our expansion to Nairobi next year. From screening Nawi to honoring its amazing talent, this moment is a milestone for our festival family, said Chadwick Peltier, founder DaVinci International Film Festival. DaVinci International Film Festival is produced by the 501(c)(3) nonprofit DaVinci Film Foundation Incorporated and serves as a premier boutique or awards platform celebrating the independent cinema from around the world through its Leo Awards. The festival hosts 4 signature programs, including the award-winning screenwriting series Storyline, Dev Docs, Genius for Ultra Short Work and Animation. DEF24 will introduce a free-to-enter Junior Leo program for emerging filmmakers, as well as a DaVinci Labs exhibition honoring multidisciplinary creatives across architecture, sculpture, music, and invention. So founded in 2017, DEF is a top-reviewed film festival with annual events at the Grove in Los Angeles, California. So that is indeed the exciting news that we have received with regards to films being showcased in the world over. So this particular development excites me a lot because more often than not, a lot of African films do not get the opportunity to be spotlighted in this manner as the DaVinci International Film Festival and the Foundation are doing for Africa, because I feel like there's a lot of great films that are coming from this continent, but more often than not, some of the festivals that a number of these good films feature in may not really be seen by the masses to even help the filmmakers and those behind it to secure possible distribution deals. So fortunately for us, finally we have this opportunity coming to the continent of Africa starting next year, 2026. So it is indeed exciting. And one of the films that will be screening to, in this, the launch being held in the Grove, the AMC theaters in the Grove, would be Nawi, which was a film selection sent to the Oscar Best International Film category last year. So Nawi would be one of the films to be featured on the screen come the event October 10th to 12th, which is going to be organized in LA. So it is indeed quite exciting. And to be honest, I didn't really know much about this particular international film festival until my research towards this particular um, episode that I'm doing. So it is quite exciting and quite timely, seeing that just yesterday's episode I was reviewing an article that spoke about how in one particular film festival, out of 300 films that were screened, Africa had only just is it 8 films, and it was quite worrying seeing that the African continent has a lot of countries, and perhaps rightly so, maybe a number of the African films that were submitted to the film festival didn't meet the criteria of the, or requirements of the film festival organizers. So it may be in the right spirit with which only maybe 8 films premiered. And the article also stressed on the fact that in a major film festival organized on the continent, only 5 African films were showcased, and that was quite disturbing, seeing that this film festival perhaps was organized by Africans and maybe mainly for Africans, but definitely if it is an international film festival, it takes into cognizance any other films from any part of the world. So that is expected. However, if only 5 films were screened or showcased out of a film festival organized by Africans on the film continent, then it becomes very worrying. So there were so many questions as to whether the issue may be as a result of is it poor production value or possibly um, exclusion of African films, maybe due to the storylines, and that I may never know. However, he raised some valuable points, and finally, to have this being organized, which I think I don't know yet until perhaps the first one is organized, but I think it will really highlight a lot of African films and hopefully help um, upgrade the value and create, throw more spotlight on African films on the continent, even by emerging filmmakers who otherwise may never even get opportunity for their films to be seen due to perhaps socioeconomic reasons. So to have the DaVinci International Film Festival launch Film Africa next year as a film festival in Nairobi, it is an exciting thing for Africa. And that I must congratulate their founder, Chadwick Peltier, in presenting, in his own words, exciting new chapter, for to spotlight African cinema on the opening night in Los Angeles is a great thing for us to experience. And indeed, I am excited for this, and I'm excited for African filmmakers who will get to be participating in this particular film festival come next year. So let me know what you think. Do you think this film festival will indeed pave, the way for a lot of African films to receive the necessary spotlight to give us a fighting chance on the world stage? Or you think it may just come and add up to the regular film, festivals that goes about the same way? Maybe rightfully so, maybe not so. Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. Pardon me. So I was supposed to have actually showcased um, this name tag, and I actually showcase as the third story that I will be doing after this. And the third story, sadly, is that of you know, Kenya not submitting this year, which is quite unfortunate, seeing that they were able to submit last year, and even though it wasn't shortlisted among the top 15 for last year event, Oscar event, I would have hoped that they would have submitted, but they had a good reason for not submitting. And for this particular development, I want to just read the article and then let's see why they were not presenting for this year's Oscar event. So, in an article published, pardon me, let me just get my, that's the challenge of one person operating and presenting at the same time. So, in an article presented in the Cinema Focus, it says that for the first time in 8 years, Kenya will not submit a film to the Oscars, a moment of industry reckoning. 5 films were submitted for consideration, but according to the Kenya Oscar Selection Committee, none of them met the requirements for entry. And this is the reason they gave. So, in a surprise move, for the first time in 8 years, Kenya will not be submitting a film to the 98th Academy Awards for Best International Feature. And it's not alone. For the third time in recent years, Nigeria is also abstaining from the race, according to news reports, though no official confirmation has yet been shared by the Nigerian Oscar Selection Committee. The news of Kenya's withdrawal came on 30th September via a press statement from the Kenyan Film Commission announcing that Kenya Oscar Selection Committee had decided against sending any film to the 2026 Oscars after ruling that none of the 5 submissions met the requirements for consideration. The official statement reads that Kenya Oscar Selection Committee has completed its review of films submitted for consideration in the International Film Feature Film category of the 98th Academy Awards. The review was conducted on the 19th and 20th of September with reference to the Academy's eligibility requirements, as well as the committee's assessment of overall artistic and technical quality in line with the standards expected by the Academy and the global filmmaking community. 5 films were submitted. Each was carefully screened and assessed against the Academy's official eligibility rules, which include demonstrate Kenyan creative control, a 7-day commercial theatrical run, majority use of a non-English language, a minimum runtime of 40 minutes. In addition to the eligibility, the committee also evaluated the overall artistic and technical quality of the submissions in line with international standards. After a thorough review, the committee determined that none of this year's submissions met the requirements for entry. As a result, Kenya will not be presenting a film in the International Feature Film category of the 98th Academy Awards. And that is the statement presented by the Kenyan Film Commission as to the reason why they are not participating in this year's Oscar event. I mean, 2026 Oscar event. And I must say, I really salute them for doing this, because sometimes, even if perhaps they met all the requirements, I like the fact that they weren't just looking at just the technical requirements being demanded by the Oscars, but also the overall artistic vision. Because why waste your time if perhaps the artistic vision is not compelling enough to be able to end up in the short list of 15 films? Because here lies the case that there are films from over 100 countries all coming for this one slot or category. And having submitted over time for a period of, let's say, 7 years, I'm sure they have seen clearly what kind of films makes an impact on the world stage when you are presenting it for a Best International Feature Film category. So I am very certain that perhaps of all the 5 films that were submitted, even if it did meet the category expected by the Academy, maybe for some reason or the other, they have seen that no, the artistic vision of the director may not be enough to help them be, help their film to be submitted or be, added to the short list of 15 films to be presented in the 98th Academy, Oscar event. So I can understand why they would want to do so. But this also points to the fact that perhaps prior to shooting a number of films, there must be deliberate efforts by the Film Commission to help filmmakers, push the limit of their creativity to present not just a good film, but a competent film that can compete squarely to any other film wherever they may be worldwide. So it is indeed an exciting development to have, but it also shows that there's a long way, it's quite a long way that we have to go as African filmmakers to ensure that we know exactly the kind of films, the kind of direction that would help us, be highly competitive on the world stage. Because since South Africa won the Chochi film way back in the early, I think 2006 or so thereabout, there hasn't been any African film that has received perhaps such close proximity to winning the best international feature film category of the Oscars. And indeed, it is quite sad. And I'm hoping that as perhaps Kenya is taking a backseat this time around, they are all evaluating together with Nigeria, they are all evaluating how best to come back strong next year so that they can participate in the Oscars in this particular category. And I must say, as difficult as that may be, it is understandable. It's better to present a top-notch quality production than to present a production that won't make any impact whatsoever. So kudos to the Kenyan Film Commission, and in addition to as well to the Nigerian Film Commission for deciding to opt out of this Oscars, understanding or knowing what they have at hand. So indeed, I hope that they would work out, make sure that in next year's submission, it will be more potent and more compelling for even the Academy not to, exclude it out of the short list of 15 films for the, best international film category. So let me know what you think with regards to this development as to the Kenya Film Commission opting out of this Oscars race that will be held in March of 2026. Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. So moving on to my last story for the day, a lot of African songs have been making waves all over the world, from our Afro beats to the high lives and to the hip life and so many other genres of songs. African songs have particularly made an impact worldwide, and there are a lot of cultures that have actually enjoyed our music, both from the continent and also from the diaspora. And one of the things is that film actually also incorporates music. And fortunately for a number of these big names, their songs have been used in a number of international productions, both on the big screen of film and the small screen of television. So let's take a critical look at some of the productions that have highlighted a number of African songs that have been used in these films. So we'll take a look at the top 10. We'll take a look at the top 10. We'll take a look at the top 10 African songs that have been featured one way or the other in some of international production. So let's start with, so this article is published on the Pulse Ghana website. Unfortunately, I can't play any of their songs, but so the 10 African songs that made their way into global TV and film. And so let's start with the first song, which is Burna Boy Alone, which featured in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And for those who have watched it, I'm sure you've heard the rhythm of the song in in this particular film as well. So that is quite exciting for us. So Burna Boy's ballad alone captured the grief and resilience of Wakanda. Its soulful delivery became one of the most celebrated pieces on the soundtrack. So number one is Burna Boy, one of Africa's biggest stars today. Moving on from number one, we go to Tu Baba, that is African Queen, which featured in Fat Girl. So the timeless love song found new life in the 2006 comedy Fat Girls, perfectly aligning with the film's celebration of beauty and self-acceptance. And this is about almost 20 years ago. So that is a Two-Face, or now it's called Tu Baba, but back then it was called Two-Face Idiba. So moving on to the third one, we have Fela Kuti, the legendary, iconic, musician of recent, past memory. Let's Start. His song made its way into the Netflix special, The Harder They Fall, which starred Idris Elba and I think Majors. Yeah, Major also featured, and Jonathan Majors also featured in this film. So when The Harder They Fall trailer dropped, fans were stunned to hear Fela Kuti's fiery Let's Start used in a confrontation scene between Regina King, and Zazie Beetz. The song's Yoruba lyrics and Afrobeat energy made it a powerful choice. So there you have it. The legendary, iconic Fela Kuti song ended up in this particular film as well. You also have Davido, one of Nigeria's or Africa's megastar song Assurance in the Coming to America film. For those who watch this actually is a scene. It's a scene in the movie itself. So Davido actually cameoed in the Come to America film that stars what's it called? Eddie Murphy. And the piece written here says that Davido not only lent his head to the film, but also performed it in a cameo role, earning $15,000 a day for his appearance. That is quite exciting. Yeah, so the fifth one is Kofi Inti featuring Amponsa and Baroski Odonyum. That is love song, translated as love song. So Odonyum in the Kitchen. And this is what it says, that Netflix's dystopian drama, The Kitchen, incorporates the Ghanaian high life classic Odonyum by Kofi Inti, Ofori Amponsa, and Baroski, co-directed Kibwe Tavares, emphasized the soundtrack's genre blending approach, mixing genre, garage, and African rhythms to reflect the multi-layered world the film builds. So it looks like a number of Netflix's films are really accepting a lot of African films, obviously by the creatives, but it is indeed good that we are seeing a lot of African songs being featured in a lot of these films. We also have Shatta Wale of the Shatta movement from Ghana, one of Africa's megastars. Song also Ayo and My Level, also featuring in Black Beach. Ghanaian dancehall and Afrobeats artist Shatta Wale had not just one, but two of his songs, Ayo and My Level, featured in Black Beach, a Spanish political thriller. The inclusion of both tracks marked a notable moment for Ghanaian music on the international film stage, showcasing Shatta Wale's broad appeal beyond the borders of West Africa. And this is huge because it's a Spanish language film, and yet his song was featured not just one, but two in just one project. And that is amazing. And that is Shatta for you, Shatta Movement. So we move on to the seventh one, Wizkid, another megastar, Dario, in Pacific Rim Uprising. And Pacific Rim is a big film. It's quite a big film. I think this is the sequel. I'm not so certain whether I think this is the sequel. Yeah, this should be the sequel. So Wizkid's anthem turned the battle aftermath into a celebratory global dance. That is quite exciting. Yeah, so it's featured in the sequel, and this is the scene in which it was used in, and that is quite amazing. That is quite amazing. Moving on from there, we also have the Black Way and Black Caviar, What's Up Danger, which featured in that wonderful animated film, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. The Ghanaian American rapper's track became the anthem for Miles Morales' Leap into Heroism. And that song is quite amazing for those who watch it. It's even in the trailers, featured in the trailers as well. But in the film, you will hear perhaps a much lengthier version than what you might have heard in the trailer. So you should, take a look or go watch all these films for yourself to know which songs you may like with regards to all these 10 songs that have been highlighted here. So moving on to the ninth one, we have Bass, Kel-P, and Black Sherif, Blood, Sweat, and Tears in Creed 3, the Michael B. Jordan directed film. So it says that in Creed 3, Blood, Sweat, and Tears by Bass, Kel-P, and Ghana's Black Sherif fuels the emotional arc of the film. Its themes of grit and ambition mirror the movie's fight for identity and legacy. So there you have it, another iconic, group of musicians, particularly Black Sherif from Ghana, having their song being featured in this particular, production. And then we move back to Nigeria. Flavor, one of Nigeria's veteran musician. I mean, he's been in the scene for as long as perhaps two Baba. They started way back in, I think, in the late 90s, thereabout. And his song Game Changer was featured in Power Book 2 Ghost, that is 50 Cent's production. And it says that in Power Book 2 Ghost, Flavor's recent high life anthem from 2022, Game Changer, plays during a Nigerian wedding scene. The lavish display of culture got fans buzzing, with reports suggesting Flavor was paid handsomely, rumored to be over ₦1 billion for the placement. And that indeed is exciting. And well, I'm sure there are more African songs that have been used in, a production, a global production, whether TV or film. But this is the top 10, or this is the 10 list that Pulse Ghana has provided. And I couldn't resist but come and share it on this platform for you to, know what your particularly if you're from Africa, know what your songs from Africa are doing on the world stage. And indeed, it's exciting to have a number of these songs featuring worldwide in this production. At least it's given us some form of recognition, not just for our our films one way or the other, but most also importantly for our music as well. So indeed, I'm excited about this, and yeah, and I'm sure with time there will be a lot more that will pop up, and that is what we are hoping for our musicians on this continent. Well, all too soon, my this wraps up my stories for today's episode of the Film Mandate. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I'll be coming your way again tomorrow with another live session, bringing to you stories from all over the globe and Africa as well. My name is Papa Otu, and this has been the Film Mandate. I'll see you soon.